Matt, do you have the story for us?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact,
Okay.
this is about the Australian Church.
Okay. What Australian church?
Well, it's the Australian Archdiocese about church abuse.
Okay.
That priests must report confessions of any kind of criminal, like any kind of sexual abuse.
Okay.
And it says here Catholic clerics should face criminal charges if they do not report sexual abuse disclosed to them during confession. An Australian inquiry has recommended. It is among any 5 proposals to emerge from a landmark inquiry into institutional abuse in the nation. The inquiry had heard harrowing tales of abuse, which were never passed on to the relevant authorities. It also says the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse, which began in 2013, was contacted by thousands of victims from both religious and non-religious organizations. On Monday, it proposed wide-ranging changes to Australia's criminal justice system, and the recommendations will now be put to legislators. And I guess there's a bunch of changes here that are...
Are you getting this from the Guardian?
No, I actually got this from the Free Thinker.
Okay.
But also it says the report recommended that people in institutions who know, suspect, or should have suspected a child was being abused should face criminal charges. The issue of mandatory reporting was one of the most discussed aspects of the inquiry. In some cases, abusers had made admissions during church confession in the knowledge that they would not be relayed to police. It says, we heard evidence that perpetrators who confessed to sexually abusing children went on to reoffend and seek forgiveness again. But also the Melbourne Archbishop Dennis Hart said the existing rules around confession should remain.
Okay. All right. There we go. Okay. Well, I'm actually for that. If these people, someone goes in there and says, "Hey, I've boned this 7-year-old or 10-year-old or whatever," and they thought they could get away with just say, "Well, have God forgive me for doing that," and they're just going to go out and do it again. I'm for them having to disclose that myself.
Well, I think it's also
Yeah, I completely
if
agree.
anybody else suspects it, they have to let people know.
Right. Now, there is an important part here of the story. It says the church has indicated that it will oppose the altering of the rules around confession. So basically, they're trying to say, hey, we don't want to report that. I'm willing to bet you I know why, because then they'll have to turn somebody else in, or they're be afraid that they are going to get turned in themselves.
Right.
Yeah, I believe in some states in America, you priests don't have to do that, and quite frankly, I think it's because if they have to tell on their fellow priests, they may lose a little bit out of that collection box.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. It says here we've heard evidence of perpetrators who confessed to sexual abusing children who went on to reoffend and seek forgiveness again. I think you read that, Matt.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. That's the fact is they just think, well, God forgave me this time. He'll forgive me every time. That's what I hate about religion. That's one of the things I absolutely hate about religion is the fact is that it's like, okay, well, I can do a thing. I can ask forgiveness. I can go do the thing again, ask forgiveness, rinse and repeat.
Well, that's what's been happening here. People get if they're suspected of doing something like that, then they get reassigned someplace else.
Yeah. That's horrible.
That's what happens. Again, I always say this about Christianity. That's what happens when you have a system where you can be forgiven for anything except blaspheming God.
Yeah. I actually had a conversation with somebody online there about this. I said, what is there? Let's see how well you know your Bible. What is the one thing that you can't do and your God will forgive it? And they're like, oh, well, you can't murder somebody. And it's like, oh, well, then you're calling your Jesus a liar at that point, because he said that he forgives all sins, great and small, and killing somebody would be a great sin, wouldn't it? So, and he's like, well, here's the passage. It's like, well, then you're just still calling Jesus a liar at that point. So doesn't matter. And you've got to realize that these people they think that they can do whatever they want, and a lot of these people, and most of us here know that these religious people, they don't know their Bibles. They just know what they've been told.